All right, I think we're live. We're here with Philippe Lemm, and he has a new record coming out in just a couple of weeks.
Yes.
Next week. Next week?
Yeah.
2 weeks. 23rd, November.
23rd, yes.
September 23rd. And you have a gig right around that time as well.
Yes, we're playing Rockwood Stage 3, Rockwood Music Hall Stage 3 on the 28th at 8:15. Yeah.
All right, so that's just a couple of weeks. So Philippe, why don't you tell everybody kind of about yourself, where you're from, and about the band?
Okay, well, my name is Philippe Lemm. I'm from Amsterdam originally. I moved to New York about 5 years ago to study at the Manhattan School of Music with John Riley. And at the Manhattan School of Music, I met Angelo Di Loretto and Jeff Koch. Angelo Di Loretto, piano player, and Jeff Koch is a bass player.
Mm-hmm.
And we started to play together like pretty much from the first week on. You know how you go to a new school and you're trying to, meet many new faces and try to play with everybody. And with them, it really clicked very naturally. We sort of developed our style throughout the years by sort of playing free, and not free jazz, but taking a standard and then playing it sort of in a free way. Put vamps in there, stretch the form, and I found out that we have a very similar aesthetic about what we like to hear in music and what we like to hear in interactive playing. And yeah.
Cool. Yeah, there's a couple of things I'm wondering when you say that. So when you say that you were playing free with these standards, were you like arranging them, or was this just kind of you kept playing and kind of naturally happening upon stuff?
Yeah, I think it was very natural. There was never arrangements that we made. Second year, we became more conscious about it. We had to pick an elective.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pick an elective in your second year, and I didn't really like most of the electives that there were in the school. And then I found out there is this thing called independent studies, which means you can create your own subject, your own class, and you get 5 hours with an instructor. So
Okay.
I figured if I do this with 3 people with the same topic, we have 15 hours with an instructor. So we said we want to dive into trio playing, like what are different ways how to play as a trio, like in an accompanying function, or, different approaches to interactive playing, or whatever actually. So we had 3 instructors we could pick. We had John Riley, Jay Anderson, and Ted Rosenthal, and we basically played for them every week an hour. So we sat down in the room with them and we played whatever, sometimes an arrangement, sometimes I would start with a groove and then Angelo would build something around that and Jeff would play. So kind of in that approach, and then one of us would take initiative. Like sometimes Angelo, like piano, is a very strong leader in this setting, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes Jeff or somebody starts a melody. It's kind of like Wayne Shorter Quartet. It seems to have such a palette of options and songs and styles and moods. And when somebody says, hey guys, let's go there, then the rest is like, yes, let's do it. And then they create something there until somebody else says, well, hey, how about this? So yeah, it's in a way democratic, and if you have personalities that are open-minded enough to say like, yeah, why not? Let's do this. Then yeah, you get very interesting results.
Right. No, totally. You can definitely hear that in the way that you guys, play these tunes. So the tunes that you recorded, were these ones that you kind of worked on during this time, or was?
Yes. Like for instance, my recital, my master's recital, I played one half with a band that was very arranged, and then I played the other half with the trio, which was very open. So they only said, I said like, we're going to play Nardis, and that was it. There was no arrangement. There was no particular thing. We kind of go with the flow. And that's also how we recorded these standards on the record. So I had some sort of an idea for ESP and for Nardis. It's like, for Nardis for Night and Day. And it was like, let's try to do this. And then we do a couple of takes like that and that. And then you're trying to hit a mood, basically. Like that's the most important thing for me. You're trying to hit a zone where you're all, like everybody gets into the same sort of bubble all together. And
Totally.
That's every time it can be different. So now when we're playing those songs live, now we're getting some sort of an idea. And now that we're doing an album release, people expect something you know, not too far from the record.
Sure, sure.
So by now they're getting some sort of more shape, but we're trying to keep it sort of as flexible as possible all the time.
That's cool. And so the other thing I'm wondering is, did you guys find that you had a lot of collective influences that were similar? Is it in that kind of, was there any people or styles that kind of you all draw from together?
I'm sure there are, but on top of my head, I think we have like 3 very different backgrounds. Me and Jeff, we both grew up with punk, ska, you know, more the rock side of things.
Okay.
Angelo really comes from classical background and then really into jazz. So a lot of bands that I would show to Angelo, he would have never heard of. The other way around too, he will show me really classic, like some sort of, he's very into Genesis, for instance.
Right.
A lot of these really classic rock bands, I've never, you know, got into that much, and he will show me that. He is also really into musical theater, like the Broadway-esque type thing.
Sure.
So yeah, I think we come from a very different background. I mean, of course, we have bands that we all admire, obviously, because they're just amazing. But yeah, I think we have more differences in our backgrounds in musical upbringing than things that we have in common.
Gotcha. And then, so do you guys also play like as a unit with other people?
We start to do now. Yeah, we have. We were accompanying a singer, Trevor McQueen. We did a couple of shows with him, which was super fun. We are going to do something with, I forgot her full name, an actress that was at CSI. Her name is Gloria, and then I forgot her last name. But that's going to be really cool. We're going to do something with her. And did we accompany some other people? I'm sure we played, but not like as a fixed band. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, so tell me more about the record. So there's some of your tunes on there, some standards. So was there like an overarching theme to this collection of tunes, or so just tell me more about that.
Kind of. So everything started to roll last year when there was a competition, the B-Jazz competition in Belgium. I sent in my title, where we basically improvise standards. And that's what I want to do with this trio. Like that's sort of, or that direction. If we're improvising, it's going to be that flavor. And they picked us, and we could go to compete in Belgium, which was super fun, and we won actually. And that sort of was a sort of a send-off for other things. So we prepared a collection of material for that competition. There were some originals, there were some standards, and there was one piece that was a mandatory piece for everybody to give their own interpretation. And then from that, the winning of that competition, there were a couple of tours attached as the prize. So we played in Spain and in Basque Country, and then in Lithuania. And then we did a small tour in Belgium. And those tours kind of created, okay, we have to prepare a repertoire. And that became sort of, 15, 20 songs that we had, that we played different every night. And then at the end, we had a sort of a core idea of how that would be a very compact statement to make. And then we made a sort of decision, like this would be cool for a record. Let's try to make a good documentation of this material and just move on to the next step and like perform that as a set. You know?
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, there's a good collection of different tunes. I think, now that you have talked about some of those different influences, I think it's pretty apparent when you go and check out the record, some of those different influences, and also not only the record, but you guys also have some videos, right? Yeah,
we have some videos. So about the record, for me, it was very important to like, how do you I mean, in my experience, I don't know if there are musicians watching, but it can be so different if you're playing live with people and you're making the sound in the room and you're kind of playing the room, and then you go in the studio and you're, as a drummer, most of the time you're in an isolated room, to get a very clean sound, and that gives you the possibility to later on polish it, make it sound very crisp and like work with all the little details that you can do. But it also takes a little bit something away from what you're so used to, which is to create a sound with a band in one room. So the record was made actually in one room without headphones.
Okay.
So to kind of capture that same vibe, you know, it means that you have less options later on to kind of work out little mistakes that you're like, oh, I wish we could, you know, do that. But yeah, it is what it is, and you're going for a vibe basically. And the videos, we did a Kickstarter, and some of our backers, so people that supported our Kickstarter, as a reward could pick a song, and then we would record a video for them. So there were 3 songs that we did, and yeah, and they turned out really nice. And we went to Darkfire Studios again. Also, we recorded in one room, and yeah. So those videos, I'm really happy with those.
Nice. Yeah, they're pretty cool. And where can people find some of the videos of you guys?
So most of them are now on Facebook, on our Facebook page,
okay,
or on my personal Facebook page, which is just Philippe Lemm, and then there is Philippe Lemm Trio, and most of those videos are there too. Or if you type Philippe Lemm Trio on YouTube, you will find a bunch of these videos.
Cool.
They're sort of shorter versions from things that you can expect to see live.
Nice. Now, I think, you know, definitely there's going to be some musicians kind of watching this, and I think that you guys had an extremely successful Kickstarter campaign. Some people don't have that experience. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about developing your ideas for the Kickstarter. I know you had some really cool rewards. There was a recent video of you guys
getting drunk,
hanging out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So could you just maybe a couple any thoughts or tips you had just going through that crowdfunding experience and kind of?
Yes. Well, I think everybody says this when you're done with it, and I'm still not 100% done with it. Like, most of it is done now. The rewards are sent out and everything. It's a lot of work. It's more work than you think. But the cool thing about it is that it gives you a very clear goal, which is a specific time frame to reach as many people as possible. You create awareness for your project. You just launch it in a very public way. Most people that will support you already know you, so they're your friends and family. Like, that's one thing. That you can argue that they might buy the record anyway, you know, when they see you perform somewhere. So tips I have for the Kickstarter, if you want to do one, when I thought about how I wanted to make my Kickstarter, I watched a lot of these videos. And there were basically 2 categories. One was, I'm very sad, and I have no money, and the music industry is such a bitch, and, you know, what can we do? Help us. So you're trying to get sort of a pity thing for people. They're creating sympathy for what you do, and therefore, like, oh, this poor person, let's help him. I didn't really want to go that route, because I don't know, that just didn't feel right. Like, it becomes really like begging almost for money.
Totally.
So I sort of saw a couple of videos that I thought were very good. I thought the video I saw from this band, Too Many Zoos, was very good. It was very engaging. It was very well done, and I really felt like I wanted to see the whole 3 minutes, and I really felt like, yeah, this is such an awesome project. It gave me a lot of positive energy rather than feeling pity for them. I decided to kind of make the point that why we're doing this very clear in like the first 15 seconds. I think you have to do that. Like, and it's very clear. I mean, yes, of course, you're going to ask people to support your project by giving you money and buying something in return for that. But then I thought there are sort of the obvious go-to things, you know, like a T-shirt and, you know, your record, blah, blah. But I thought it would be cool if we could do some things that people would not really expect per se in a Kickstarter. Some original things that you might think like, wow, if that would be actually really cool to see them do that. And we actually had a bunch of people, like we did the Hangover. So you could give us, you could donate some money, and then we would write you a thank you card, which was I think $60, and then when you would do $75, and you would get a CD and a T-shirt included in that. But the thank you card would be written completely sober, and then if you would pay us like I think $20 more, we would do it completely drunk, and we would apologize in advance for the gibberish and weird things that you would probably receive on your handwritten thank you card. So when the time came, like, okay, we're gonna we're gonna do this. You know, we're not gonna fake it, so let's do it.
Mm-hmm.
We got alcohol. I filmed it with my phone, and we made like a shout out to the people that did that. Like Jay Anderson was one of those supporters that said like, yes, I want to see you guys drunk. And I filmed it, and then I edited a little bit, and then I asked Jeff and Angelo the next morning to film themselves because the reward was called The Hangover. So I asked them, so like, show us how you are the night after, sort of giving, you know, people a little bit of an insight in what the procedure was like.
Right. Yeah. No, I thought it was awesome. I mean, I did a Kickstarter like, I forget, in like 2012. Wish I had seen something like yours to kind of be like, man, I just saying like come from not this like, oh, everything sucks, give me money, but like, here, this is a really cool project, and wanting to get people excited about it. So, you know, I thought you guys did an awesome job with all of that.
Oh, thanks, man. Cool.
And so people should go, especially musicians that are thinking about making just go to Kickstarter. You can, if you search for your name, Philippe.
Yeah, I think it's still on there. You can see it. Yeah, and the video is on Facebook. If you're really interested in seeing the process of getting us drunk, you can go to Facebook, and it's on our Facebook profile.
Right, and we're not saying that you should just go and get drunk and write thank you cards, but we're just trying to come up with creative ways to get your music out there and get people excited.
Yeah, and a positive way. Like what you say, like it's very easy to get dark on the music scene, but I feel that we're so anyway, like very privileged to be, you know, do what we do and to have the means to do what we do, because it's just not an easy thing to maintain.
Totally.
So, but we should appreciate that. So I'd rather have people feel like sort of like energized and like positive, something positive about what you do, rather than something to help you out of sadness.
Right, totally.
The pity.
So all that was really successful, and now we're just down to the last couple of weeks. So tell us where you're going with the project. I know you have a bunch of gigs coming up, other than the CD release here. Yeah,
exactly. We do the CD release here on the 28th at Rockwood Stage 3, and then we're going on the road. Basically, we're going to the Netherlands, Belgium, and Germany. And our main CD release in the Netherlands will be at the Bimhuis in Amsterdam on the 13th of October. And we'll play some other really nice clubs in the Netherlands. And then we'll play in Antwerp in Belgium, in Rataplan, which is a very, very nice theater there. So I'm really excited for that. And then we go to Germany, where we play in Cologne and in Pforzheim and in Einbeck. And we do some workshops along the way in conservatories. But it's a pretty tight schedule, so it's going to be a lot of fun for the next coming. Well, it's like a 2.5 week sort of getaway.
And just for the musicians that are checking this out later, so did you book all of this mostly yourself, right?
Yes, I wish I had somebody to do it, because that is a pain in the ass, to be honest. There is nothing, there's no shortcut to it, and it's a long process. Everything, some clubs book a year in advance, and some clubs book 3 months in advance. So go figure, if you want to line those things up in a sort of compact time frame, it takes up a lot of time to contact those places, and to sort of, the contact is to write them an email is not hard, but most of the time it's like email after phone call after phone call for the same person.
Right.
But there is no shortcut again to do this, and it also gives you energy when it does work, when you do get a confirmation, and then stuff slowly gets shape, and you're like really excited. And,
No, that's great. It's just it's kind of just a reality check, for those out there who are just hoping for someone to magically call them to play at the Bimhuis. It doesn't just.
No, that took me a year, man. That gig. I mean, that was definitely the hardest venue for me to book, and because I know that he gets like 100 emails a day, and it's just like overload on requests, and to kind of get his attention and make it work, and yeah, it's definitely, but it's worth doing it, because once you start with it, you start to understand how it works, and it's more about being sort of consistently organized rather than doing a lot in 1 week. It's like it's a marathon rather than a sprint.
Totally.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So we can find all the details about those on your website too, right?
They're on my website, and what's even better is that we are on this profile called Bands in Town.
Yep.
So if you type Bands in Town in Google or something, and then you type Philippe Lemm Trio, you can track us. I know you're on Bands in Town as well, and it seems to be a sort of perfect way to get informed about music that you like, not just if you would like this trio, but any band that you like is most likely on there. And it will give you a notification only when they're playing in your area. So you don't have to deal with getting, an upcoming shows letter from somebody that only plays in their home country where they're sort of useless information. But
Totally.
Bands in Town gives you only notification when a band that you like plays in your area. So, I mean, this feeling when your friends were like, oh, you were at that show last night. And you're like, no, I didn't know what was happening. And you're like, damn, I cannot search for all the venues in New York every week what they're having, but I would like to see these shows.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, these guys made a very smart app that, you fill in the bands you like, and they tell you when these bands are playing.
Right, yeah, no, that's a good one. Okay, so we'll send people to Bands in Town to find
Bands in Town,
where
yes.
you guys are playing.
Yes, and it's also on our website, so if you don't want to go to Bands in Town yet.
No, I mean, that's great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about some of the other projects you're involved in outside of the trio with these guys? You mentioned playing with Trevor, which I think we played that together, right? We did
that recording with him, yes.
So what else are you up to?
I'm playing in a band of Andrea Wood, a great singer, also a classmate of ours. I'm one of the drummers for this band, House of Waters.
Okay.
Which is an amazing trio with Hammer Dulcimer, and these guys are amazing. They're playing their original music for 10 years, and that's really, really amazing. I was on the road recently with Amina Figarova, which is a piano player. She's originally from Azerbaijan. And yeah, her music is amazing. And I got a chance to be a sideman on some really cool venues that we did this tour on in Europe. What else do I do? Like a ton of sideman things, as a drummer, it's sort of, how you can be in a band and then that band only has work for a very particular part of the year. So I feel part of a band that I'm playing with, but it's not a full-time gig.
Totally.
I start with a new series of sessions that I will post everybody soon. I used to do this in Harlem, and now we're going to move to a little bit lower, around 110. But I'm working out the details now. That will start in October when we're back from the tour. That will be like a weekly thing as well.
Where are you going to be playing?
Well, that's still a little bit of a secret now. But
it's a secret.
Yeah,
I live right there, so you got to tell me.
Yeah, it's gonna come out soon.
Okay, all right.
That will be most likely on Tuesdays, like a jazz thing. What else do I do?
Yeah, and you don't only play jazz gigs, right?
I mean, I play also pop gigs, but not that many. No, it's more like a jazz-related thing.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor is like a sort of in-between thing. The arrangements are definitely sort of jazz-influenced by the harmony, and there are some solos, but
right.
It's sort of a pop approach to it since everything is fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm forgetting something, but like a band that I'm like, maybe people are like, hey, you're also playing with me, and I totally forget about it.
No, that's okay. Yeah. You can never remember everything all at once.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you have any plans to develop? Sorry. Are you going to continue to develop this band, this trio, or are you thinking of some other projects you're going to start soon?
No, the main focus is definitely the trio, and we're trying to do some collaborations with people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to do something with this actually actress / singer in the Netherlands. To do something actually with her at the BIM house as well. We did a video called Amsterdam's Parfum, Amsterdam Perfume.
Okay.
Which is a very nostalgic song, which would take place in like the 70s in Amsterdam, about people that sort of have a love-hate relation with Amsterdam. Like they say, it's my city and it's very deep in my heart, and even the sort of disgusting things from the city, the smells, and they are still part of that beauty. And she originally sings that song, and I'm trying to convince her to play that song with us in the BIM house, which would be a huge honor for us to play with her, and it would be a really cool, full circle, since I'm from Amsterdam, it's my hometown, and she sings about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the record is called New Amsterdam, which bridges Amsterdam to New York,
Right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe some other collaborations, but like the trio as a main is a main focus, definitely.
So, and you mentioned that while you guys are on tour, you're going to be doing some workshops and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
So when you guys go and do that sort of thing, what are some of the pieces of advice that you like to give to young musicians who are thinking of taking a similar path as you?
Well, we made a little video that I think is on Facebook as well, about a workshop that we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a workshop, for instance, in February at the Buffalo State College, where we worked with the advanced jazz ensemble of the school, and we are trying to explain them a little bit what our approach is to play. And then we're trying to make them do it. So they can, let's say they're playing a standard. Let's say they're playing Stella by Starlight. Let's say for the musicians that are watching now, if you're going to a jam session and people are calling that song, and you maybe have never played with these people on stage, everybody goes to a sort of default mode of, okay, that's how it's going to sound. Like a tempo and maybe even a key and a sort of a vibe. And it makes sense that people do it, because if you don't know the musicians, you trying to find common ground as fast as possible. But what that also does is that it puts everything in a certain direction. So you're limiting part of the creativity that you can do with a standard. It can be a device. So like a game that we do with these, or a game, like an exercise, is that one person has to start the song, which can be a vamp, which can be a cadenza, it can be the melody out of it, can be kind of anything. But what that will do is that it will open the ears of all the other musicians, and they have to throw away that pre-concept they had about how the tune was going to sound when everybody starts on the downbeat with the head. So if one person starts and they set up a certain thing, and the way they play it, their mood, their tone, the tempo, or it dictates that everybody has to follow. And maybe it's more psychological than it is than anything else, but it most of the time opens up the song way more. And then once they're getting comfortable with that, like approaching the song from different ways, then we're having a whole bunch of techniques, how to stretch parts of songs, and how to put pedal points in certain sections, or how to have one person lead something. And
totally.
Yeah, so we have like a program that we do with these students.
Perfect. And so do you guys do a lot of these kind of workshops?
We did a bunch now. We did a couple. It depends a little bit. Like sometimes you do a workshop for like little kids, where you do more of an introduction to jazz.
Sure.
I mean, that's more of a sort of an entertainment thing, because they're not involved in music as deep. So you're giving them a little taste of what we're doing. And if they're dedicated music students, we're doing like 3 conservatories now on the tour. So 3 music academies where we will work with bands, both pop and jazz, that are people that actually decided, like, I want to make a career out of music. So that's super fun, because they are, you can communicate with them on a different level, of how to approach music. And yeah, it's much more fun for us as well.
Awesome. So maybe just one more thing I was interested to ask you about was, I would imagine it's kind of different to come from Amsterdam to New York, and in terms of the musicians and just the kind of the culture.
Yeah.
I mean, did you find that to be challenging, and how have you adapted, and have you found it, having been coming from Europe, has any advantages for you over growing up here, or just anything?
Okay, I will try to answer this in sort of different sections. Like for me when I decided, or I always thought like it would be great to go to New York, but the biggest obstacle is money.
Totally.
The schools here are very expensive compared to the European system. Most schools in Europe are subsidized, so the tuition is fairly low. So that was one obstacle that was out of my hands. I don't come from a rich family that can afford that, so I applied for grants. So there were like two things, like I need to get a grant, I need to find money to do this, and I need to be accepted in the school. And I thought if both of those things work out, then I have to do it. It's like a sign.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I prepared for those two things, and I was very lucky, and it worked out. So I found a grant that I could, I was applying for, and I got that, and then I got admitted into the school. And at that point, I was also ready to move out of where I was in Amsterdam. Like I was working after my graduation for 2 years as a sideman. I had my quintet also in the Netherlands, but most of my work was sideman work. And I felt at some point, although I was making enough money to come by, I was sort of stuck. I felt like, what would be the next step for me to become a better drummer? And then I started to think about New York. So I was sort of ready, and I knew the reputation of the Manhattan School of Music where I went to. I was sort of ready for boot camp. That sounds very strange, but like back to school and like shedding and like, like really focusing on music. I was really looking forward to that, and very aware about the fact that I would have to take a lot of steps back in terms of the kind of gigs I was doing and what I was getting paid for those gigs, and maybe just everything that I built up in the Netherlands. And then after 2 years, when I graduated, I went to India because we're doing a teaching thing there with Jeff and Angelo. We went there for 4 months. And okay, so to answer your other question, how it is to adapt, if you come from the position of like you're ready to kind of take that hit in terms of comfort, that's definitely a different thing. You're accepting that New York is just you have to start over again. I found people here very open, very positive, hardworking, like with very strong work ethics. As a European jazz musician, of course, it's not your culture, so you have to adapt certain things. But some of those things are also the things that makes you attracted to this music. For instance, we don't have black church in Europe, like gospel church. It doesn't exist. And that thing is like very interesting to me, like the way they make music in the church, the guys that come out of church that like play R&B or jazz, or totally a different vibe, different energy, I don't know, like it's amazing. They sound amazing, a lot of them. So that was a new thing, and I mean, I can't become like that, but you're trying to figure out what it is that's different. So culturally, I don't think I had to adapt that much. I saw a lot of new things like that,
Sure.
like church things, and
no, yeah, I was just curious to know, how that transition was for you, and it seems
I don't
cool.
know if they're like direct advantages. I'm trying to think about that. Maybe an advantage is that you can compare both things. If you grow up in one culture and then you get thrown into another, you have sometimes a broader view of things, because you know more than one situation.
Right, because I mean, as you compared to me, like I grew up, 6 hours from New York City, which is very different than here, but it's really not that much different than it's not as different as what, coming from somewhere like that. So to me, I feel like I was curious, because I feel like there's a disadvantage having been grown up, so far enough away from the city that I couldn't come to it, but close enough that you could and kind of know what was going on. So that's the only reason that I ask. But anyway, moving on, is there anything else that you wanted to kind of talk about the record, or about anything we didn't touch on?
No, not really. I mean, I think I said everything that's for this. I mean, I'm looking forward to meet new people at concerts. That's a hard thing in New York, to connect with an audience that you don't know.
Totally, yeah, I agree.
And we had so many great responses from we played actually a show 2 weeks ago at the Parish Museum in Long Island, at the Hamptons, which was fantastic. It was outside. There were a lot of people, a couple hundred. And they were so enthusiastic. They were so into the music. And most of these people have never heard us before. That's actually, for me, the most fun, you know? It's much more fun to play in front of an audience that doesn't know you, per se, you know, rather than to play for your friends and you know, that already kind of know what you're doing. And, you know, but that seems to be difficult in New York. Like,
right.
Yeah. That's a thing. I would say if people that haven't seen the trio, or, you know, I would encourage them to come out to the show. And yeah, it's going well. There are not that many tickets left. It's a very small room, Rockwood Stage 3, so it's going to be sold out for sure. So if you're thinking about coming to check this out before we go on the road, then yeah, get your tickets.
Awesome. So that's September 28th. It's a Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday. It's 8:15.
8:15.
I think it's $10 to cover. It's not that expensive. So.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Philippe, thank you so much for chatting tonight. And
thank you, Nick.
Glad we could connect.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to kind of look back on this. It'll be posted up online. So
okay.
Yeah. So thanks again, and we'll keep in touch and have people check you out on bands in town so they can find out when you're coming to their city.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, yeah. So I'll talk to you soon, and thanks again.
Okay. Have a good night.
All right. See you later.